Welcome back to the Professor Insight podcast, the space where we explore the intersection of artificial intelligence, neuroscience, and emerging technology, and turn it into something practical for your business, your strategy, and your everyday thinking. I'm your host, Professor Billy. As always, a quick note before we begin. This podcast is fully powered by AI tools, from content creation to script writing and voice generation. And yes, what you're hearing right now is a voice clone of me, brought to life with full human oversight and manual curation. Now, let me ask you something. When you fire up an AI tool, whether it's generating text, drafting code, or producing an image, do you ever stop to wonder, what's the environmental cost of that single prompt? Most of us don't. We see the instant output, but behind the scenes, millions of servers are humming, cooling systems are running, and energy is being consumed every time AI inference takes place. For years, the conversation around AI's environmental footprint has focused almost entirely on training these massive models. Training is energy intensive, no doubt about it. But here's the shift. As AI adoption skyrockets, billions of prompts being served every day, the real cost is now in inference. That's the moment when a trained model actually generates your answer. And this is where today's episode comes in. A team of researchers at Google has just released a study with the working title, Measuring the Environmental Impact of Delivering AI at Google Scale. For the first time, we have a comprehensive framework for calculating not just the energy, but also the emissions and even the water usage tied to serving AI at scale. And they've applied it directly to Gemini, Google's family of large language models that's already powering real-world applications across the globe. Why does this matter now? Because until now, most estimates of AI's environmental impact were little more than educated guesses, and the numbers were all over the place. Depending on which study you looked at, a single AI response might use 3 watt-hours of energy, or 6, or less than 1. Water estimates range from a few drops to an entire glass per prompt. That kind of variability makes it almost impossible to track progress, or to know whether efforts to make AI greener are actually working. Google's approach changes that. By measuring not just active accelerator energy, but also idle machines, CPU and RAM, and the overhead of entire data centers, they've built the most precise picture we've seen yet, and the results may surprise you. According to their finding, the median Gemini prompt consumes less than 1/4 of a watt-hour, about the same as running your TV for 8 seconds, while also using a fraction of the water and generating far fewer emissions than earlier estimates suggested. In today's episode, we're going to explore this in detail. We'll unpack the methodology that sets this research apart, compare it to previous attempts at measurement, and highlight the striking efficiency gains Google has achieved: 33 times less energy use and 44 times lower emissions per prompt in just 1 year. We'll also discuss why this isn't just about saving energy. It's about setting a new standard for transparency and responsibility in the age of large-scale AI. All right. Let's dive into Google's study and see what it tells us about the true environmental footprint of AI.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to unearth the most fascinating insights just for you. Today, we're plunging into a subject that's, it's been buzzing with a lot of questions, hasn't it? And some pretty wild estimates, too. We're talking about the environmental footprint of artificial intelligence. You hear it constantly. AI is everywhere, unlocking breakthroughs, transforming whole industries, growing at this incredible pace. But with that kind of rapid growth, concerns about its energy use naturally follow. And honestly, some of the numbers floating around can feel quite alarming. It's led to a fair bit of confusion, I think, about what our AI-powered future might actually look like for the planet.
That's absolutely right. The public conversation around AI's environmental impact, especially for what we call inference, that's the actual use of a trained AI model, like when you ask a chatbot a question or get it to generate an image. That conversation has really been hampered by, a lack of comprehensive real-world data. A lot of the early estimates, while probably well-intentioned, they relied on pretty narrow assumptions, and that led to figures that varied wildly, sometimes by an order of magnitude, which is just huge. So our mission today really is to try and clarify that picture. We'll be using new first-party data from Google on their Gemini apps, and this gives us a much more complete, grounded view.
Okay, so this is like getting the inside scoop based on actual usage at scale. Consider this your shortcut, then, to being genuinely well-informed on where AI truly stands environmentally. We'll look at what's really driving its footprint, and maybe most importantly, what these insights mean for you, whether you're just an everyday AI user or maybe a business trying to leverage this powerful technology. Frank, let's unpack this. Right. Before we jump into the new Google data, we probably need to tackle why those earlier numbers were so all over the place. It wasn't just small differences, was it? Some reports suggested a huge energy cost for just one AI prompt, while others were way, way lower. What's going on there?
Yeah, the key thing here is something called the measurement boundary. It sounds a bit technical, but it's crucial. Many of those early or, public estimates, they focused only on a really narrow slice of the whole AI serving process. They might have only looked at the active AI accelerators. Those are the specialized chips doing the heavy lifting, like GPUs or TPUs. And often they measured them under ideal conditions, like in a benchmark test where they're running flat out.
Ah, okay. So it's like measuring a car's fuel efficiency based only on the engine running at its absolute peak on a test bench.
Exactly. It ignores all the real-world stuff, like driving in the city, stopping and starting, idling at traffic lights, or even the energy used by the air conditioning or the radio.
Right. It creates this super optimistic picture that's just not how things work in reality.
Precisely. For instance, some early research papers estimated a single GPT 3.5 prompt might use around, say, 3 watt-hours of energy. But then other studies came out with ranges from maybe 1.8 watt-hours up to nearly 7 watt-hours just for a small prompt. That's a big range. Even more recently, you had figures like OpenAI's Sam Altman citing around 0.34 watt-hours, but critically, without really explaining the methodology behind it. How did they arrive at that number?
So no context for the number.
Exactly. And it was similar for water usage. Some estimates went as high as 45 or even 50 milliliters per prompt. This huge variability just makes it incredibly difficult to understand the true impact. And, maybe more importantly, it makes it hard to know where to focus efforts to actually improve things.
Yeah, you can't really optimize something if you don't know what you're actually measuring, right?
That's the core of it.
Okay, so it's clear those early numbers were missing quite a lot. It's like measuring that car's top speed, but forgetting about air resistance or drivetrain losses. So when Google set out to build a more complete picture, what were these sort of hidden elements they uncovered in their full-stack methodology that others might have overlooked?
Right. Google's approach is what they call full-stack measurement. It's designed specifically to reflect the realities of serving AI at a massive global scale, not just in a lab. And they account for several critical factors that are often left out of those narrower calculations. We can break them down, maybe 4 key elements.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, first, full system dynamic power. This isn't just about the AI chip itself when it's actively crunching numbers. It includes the actual chip utilization achieved in a real production environment. Chips are very rarely running at 100% theoretical capacity in the real world. So measuring their dynamic power, how much they use under typical load, is crucial.
Okay, so not just peak performance, but actual performance. Got it. What's next?
Second is idle machines. This is a big one, often missed. To make sure AI services are always available, always responsive, data centers need a certain amount of fusion capacity. These are essentially machines that are powered on, ready and waiting to handle sudden spikes in traffic, or maybe take over if another machine fails.
Like backup power almost, but for compute.
Sort of, yeah. And the energy consumed by these machines just sitting there, idle but ready, it's actually significant. You absolutely have to include it. You can't just power them off between user requests.
Right, because you need that instant availability. Okay, number 3.
Third is the CPU and RAM. Running an AI model isn't solely handled by those specialized AI accelerators, the TPUs and GPUs. The main computer processor, the host CPU, and the system memory, the RAM, they play a really vital role too. They manage the data, manage the processes, and of course they consume energy as well. They're essential parts of the whole system.
Makes sense. The whole computer matters, not just the fancy AI chip.
Exactly. And fourth, finally, is the data center overhead. Think of this as the supporting cast for all the computers. It includes all the energy needed for cooling systems, which is a lot, power distribution within the building, lighting, other infrastructure. This efficiency is often captured by a metric called PUE, or power usage effectiveness.
PUE, right. I've heard of that. Lower is better, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. A PUE of 1.0 would mean all the energy goes directly to the IT equipment, which is physically impossible. Google's data centers are incredibly efficient, though. They operate at a fleet-wide average PUE of about 1.09. That means only about 9% extra energy is needed for all those supporting functions, compared to the energy directly powering the servers. That's actually world-class efficiency.
Wow. Okay, so when you add all those four things together, the dynamic power, the idle machines, the CPU RAM, the overhead,
Yeah.
it really paints a different picture.
It absolutely does.
Mhm.
And it puts things into perspective. If Google were to apply that narrow methodology to Gemini, just looking at the active AI accelerator chips, they estimate a single prompt would use only about 0.10 watt-hours of energy.
Okay.
Using their comprehensive full-stack approach, including all those critical elements we just discussed, the total energy consumption revealed is actually 2.4 times greater than that narrow estimate.
2.4 times.
Right.
Just from including the stuff that has to be running anyway.
Precisely. That difference really hammers home why you need that full-stack view for an accurate picture. You can't just cherry-pick the most efficient part.
That 2.4x difference alone is pretty eye-opening. But okay, now that we have this comprehensive view established, what are the actual numbers? For a typical Gemini prompt, using this full methodology, how does it really stack up against our daily lives? Ready for the big reveal here.
All right. So, using this comprehensive methodology, looking at data from May 2025, a median Gemini app's text prompt consumes 0.24 watt-hours of energy.
0.24 watt-hours.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
How much is that really?
Well, to put that into perspective for you, it's roughly equivalent to watching a modern TV for less than 9 seconds.
Wait, seriously, less than 9 seconds of watching television.
That's right, less than 9 seconds.
That is genuinely astonishing, especially when you think about some of the, frankly, almost apocalyptic warnings we've heard about AI boiling the oceans or consuming countries' worth of power.
It is surprising for many people, yes.
It completely recontextualizes the conversation, doesn't it? I mean, for a lot of listeners, the immediate question must be how? How was it possible to get it that low compared to those initial alarms?
Indeed. And it's not just the energy either. The associated carbon emissions are tiny too. It's 0.03 grams of carbon dioxide equivalent, GCO2e, per prompt. And the water consumption, just 0.26 milliliters?
0.26 milliliters? That's like
It's roughly 5 drops of water.
5 drops, compared to those earlier estimates of 45, 50 milliliters per prompt.
Exactly. When you compare it, this comprehensive real-world data reveals an impact that's, well, it's 1 to 2 orders of magnitude less than many of those earlier, narrower estimates suggested.
Orders of magnitude. That's not just tweaking the numbers. That's a fundamental shift in understanding the real-world impact.
It really is. And if we break down that energy consumption a bit further, the primary draw, about 58% of that 0.24 total, does come from the active AI accelerator power. That's still the biggest piece. But the host CPU and RAM, which are necessary, they account for about 25%. And then the provision idle machines and that data center overhead, the PUE factor, they each contribute around 8 to 10%.
So knowing that breakdown is key, right? It tells you where you can potentially target efficiency efforts most effectively.
Absolutely. That level of detail is critical for optimization.
Okay, those numbers are incredibly compelling, especially when you think about how widely AI is being adopted. But it sounds like this isn't just about measuring accurately, is it? It must also be about some pretty intense engineering efforts behind the scenes. What are the key innovations or maybe the strategic shifts that have allowed them to drive down the impact so dramatically across that entire stack?
You're absolutely right. These low figures are definitely not an accident. They are the result of years, literally years, of dedicated, focused work across the entire AI serving stack. In fact, just looking at a recent 12-month period from May 2024 to May 2025, the energy impact of that median Gemini app's text prompt actually dropped by a staggering 33 times.
33 times lower in 1 year.
Yes, and its total carbon footprint fell by an even more impressive 44 times.
Wow.
And crucially, this happened while they were also delivering higher quality, more capable responses from the models.
Okay, a 44x reduction in carbon footprint in a single year while improving the product. That is genuinely astounding. This clearly isn't down to one simple fix or trick. What specific innovations are driving such a profound shift? It has to be across the board.
It absolutely is a multifaceted approach. It covers everything from the fundamental AI architecture itself all the way up to the physical data centers. So first, let's talk about smarter model architectures. Gemini models are built on what's called the transformer architecture. Now, that itself already offers something like a 10 to 100x efficiency boost over older ways of doing language modeling.
Okay, so starting from a more efficient foundation.
Right. But then they also use inherently efficient structures within that, like something called mixture of experts or MOE. MOE is clever. It basically allows the AI to activate only a small necessary subset of its vast knowledge base for each specific query, rather than engaging the entire enormous model every single time.
Ah, okay. So instead of the whole brain lighting up for every question, only the relevant part gets activated.
That's a great analogy. Think of it like a highly specialized librarian. For your specific question, they only pull the few most relevant books off the shelf instead of having to scan the entire library catalog every single time.
Gotcha.
And that dramatically reduces the amount of computation needed, the amount of data that needs to move around, potentially by another factor of 10 to 100x.
So it's not about brute forcing every query anymore. It's about intelligently routing it. That seems like a huge efficiency gain right at the core level.
It is fundamental. Then, moving on, there are efficient algorithms and quantization. Google is constantly refining the algorithms that power their models. They use methods like something called accurate quantized training, or AQT. Now, quantization isn't just about using less data. AQT specifically focuses on using smaller, more efficient numerical representations, like using fewer decimal places in calculations, but doing it in a way that doesn't compromise the accuracy or the quality of the AI's final response.
So it's like doing the math with just enough precision without messing up the answer.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot. Then there's optimized inference and serving. This is about how the AI models are actually delivered to the user. They're constantly improving this for both speed, responsiveness, and efficiency. They use technologies like speculative decoding. This acts like a clever assistant almost. A smaller, much faster AI model takes a quick first guess at the answer. Then the main, powerful AI model quickly verifies and confirms or corrects it.
Ah, so the big model doesn't have to figure out every single word from scratch.
Precisely. It's much more efficient than having the large model do all the heavy lifting step by step. They also use a technique called distillation. This is where smaller, more efficient student models like Gemini Flash and Flashlight are effectively taught by the larger, more capable teacher models. This creates versions that are highly optimized specifically for serving answers quickly and efficiently. It allows for things like processing more prompts together in a batch, which further boosts efficiency.
It really sounds like they're attacking this from every angle, constantly finding smarter ways to deliver the AI's power without just throwing more raw compute at it.
That's the goal. And of course, we can't forget the custom-built hardware. This is a huge piece of the puzzle for Google. For over a decade now, they've been designing their own specialized AI chips. You've probably heard of them, TPUs, tensor processing units. These are designed from the ground up specifically to maximize performance per watt for AI workloads. Their latest generation, called Ironwood, is apparently 30 times more energy efficient than their very first publicly available TPU.
30 times? That's massive hardware improvement.
It really is. It's like having that custom-built race car that's tuned precisely for the AI racetrack instead of trying to race a general-purpose sedan. This co-design of hardware and software together is critical.
Okay, so smarter models, better algorithms, optimized delivery, custom chips. Anything else?
Yes, a couple more key things. They've also implemented optimized idling. We talked about idle machines consuming power. Well, rather than just having machines sit and wait passively, their serving stack dynamically moves AI models around based on real-time demand. This makes highly efficient use of the CPUs and minimizes the amount of time those powerful, energy-hungry accelerators are sitting idle but still powered on. It actively tackles that idle energy waste.
Very clever. Proactive idling management.
Then finally, it comes back to the ultra-efficient data centers themselves and responsible data center operations. As we mentioned, Google's data centers are already among the industry's most efficient, with that low PUE of 1.09. But beyond that, they have a really strong commitment to sourcing 247 carbon-free energy for their operations. And they're aiming to replenish 120% of the fresh water they consume, often choosing air cooling technology instead of water cooling in areas where water is scarce.
That 120% replenishment is ambitious.
It is, and it shows results. Get this, their Scope 2 market-based emissions, that's emissions from purchased electricity, actually decreased by 30% from 2023 to 2024.
Decreased by 30%.
Even while their overall electricity use grew by 27% in that same period.
Wow. Okay, hold on. Electricity use went up by over a quarter, but the emissions from that electricity went down by nearly a third.
Exactly. It demonstrates a significant decoupling between their compute growth, their electricity consumption, and the resulting emissions impact, primarily driven by their clean energy procurement.
That decoupling figure is incredibly powerful. It shows it is possible to grow AI use without automatically growing the carbon footprint at the same rate. Okay, so bringing this all together, for all of us listening, the everyday users interacting with AI, maybe asking Gemini questions, and also for the businesses out there building on or integrating AI into their operations. What are the real tangible takeaways from this deep dive? Beyond the impressive numbers, how can we actually apply this knowledge?
Right, that's the crucial question. For the everyday AI user, I think these insights offer a much more nuanced and, frankly, a more reassuring perspective than we often hear. It shows that, yes, AI is scaling rapidly, but the energy footprint per interaction is, well, surprisingly small, and it's constantly getting better.
So less guilt about asking for that recipe suggestion or summarizing a document.
Pretty much, yes. It helps alleviate some of those broad environmental anxieties, you know? It allows us to focus more on using these incredibly powerful tools responsibly and effectively without feeling like every prompt is destroying the planet.
That's a relief for many, I'm sure. But what about for businesses and developers? The implications there seem much bigger, more strategic.
Oh, absolutely. For businesses and developers, the implications are far more profound. There are several key points. First, standardization and transparency are absolutely key. This work by Google really underscores a critical need for a standardized, comprehensive measurement framework across the entire industry.
Because right now, it's apples and oranges comparisons.
Often, yes. For businesses, having a standard means you can credibly compare the environmental impact claims of different AI models or different cloud providers. You can make genuinely informed decisions. It's becoming crucial for things like accurate ESG reporting, environmental, social, and governance reporting, and for building trust with stakeholders, with customers who are increasingly environmentally conscious.
So lesson one for a business. Don't just ask about the AI carbon footprint. Ask how it's being measured. What's included in that number? What's the boundary?
Exactly. You need to understand the methodology. Second, this understanding unlocks actionable optimization. Once you understand the full stack energy consumption, knowing that idle machines matter, knowing cooling matters, knowing CPU matters, businesses can identify their specific energy hotspots. It clearly highlights that optimization isn't just about tweaking the AI model itself. It's about the entire infrastructure that supports it. And that knowledge directly informs strategic decisions. Where should you invest? In better hardware, more efficient software orchestration, different data center practices. This tells you where you'll get the most bang for your buck in efficiency gains.
Right, it gives you a roadmap for making your own AI operations leaner and greener.
Precisely. Third is strategic resource procurement. We saw that decoupling example, right? The impact of procuring clean energy and using water responsibly in data centers cannot be overstated. It's huge. Google's example shows how they managed it. So businesses can leverage this insight by prioritizing partners, especially cloud providers, who have strong, transparent commitments to renewable energy sourcing and water stewardship.
Especially if your main operations or your customers are in regions where energy grids are dirtier or water is more stressed.
Absolutely. It's not just about the raw kilowatt hours. It's where those kilowatt hours come from and how the supporting resources like water are managed.
Makes sense. And the final implication.
And finally, putting this all together creates a competitive advantage and helps with future-proofing. Look, AI adoption is exploding, demonstrating a lower environmental footprint backed up by transparent, comprehensive measurement like this is going to become a significant competitive differentiator. It already is in some sectors.
So it's not just good for the planet, it's good for business.
Increasingly, yes. It's about building and deploying AI responsibly. It ensures longer-term sustainability and resilience for your operations. And it helps meet the growing demands from regulators, investors, and consumers for technology that is developed and deployed with environmental consciousness.
This deep dive has truly been eye-opening, really. The combination of that comprehensive measurement, seeing the whole picture, and then just relentless innovation across the entire stack. It seems to have completely reshaped the environmental profile of AI inference, at least in this specific case.
Yeah.
It really drives home that it's not just about building powerful AI, it's about building it smartly, efficiently, and sustainably.
Exactly. And while the impact of a single prompt, as we saw, is really quite small, we have to remember the sheer global scale of AI use. Billions, maybe trillions of prompts eventually. So that means a continued, rigorous focus on reducing the environmental cost per interaction is absolutely imperative. We can't get complacent. The good news is the technology and the methodologies for greener AI are clearly here, and they're evolving very rapidly. It's a field of constant innovation right across that entire stack we talked about.
A reassuring but also challenging picture. It demands ongoing vigilance. And perhaps that leaves us and you listening with this final thought to ponder. As AI continues to weave itself, often invisibly, into so many aspects of our daily lives and work, what responsibility do we all have as users, as developers, as businesses to demand and actively build towards even greater transparency and efficiency? How do we ensure that this incredible wave of innovation truly serves a genuinely sustainable future? We hope this deep dive today helps you navigate those important questions a little more clearly.